Terry Lynn, Traveling Artista. Watercolor Brushstrokes and Techniques number 2. New techniques, lifting, and some of you already tried that. Did we do that last week? I don't remember.
We did.
Okay, we did lifting. Splattering, we did some scratching. I don't know, I'm just grabbing any color. I meant to have this done, or a couple things done earlier, but I didn't get that done. So if you're going to scratch, you can use tools. I have a bunch of little different tools in here. This is my old card, as I showed you. So if you lay down a good amount of color and you want to scratch it, a lot of what happens to it depends on when you scratch it. So at this point, if I hold this in the light, I can see they're both still quite wet. And it's going to dry in here fast today because it's the heat is on. If I scratch now, and I'll hold this up after, but if I scratch at this point when it's still quite wet, you can see that the paint kind of soaks down into that little trough that's created. You know, I've dug down into the paper, so there's this little V there, and the paint is settling into that. On this one, I'll wait a little bit longer. I might even do it on this one, because it did kind of happen here. You see that?
Blow on it to kind of speed up the process?
Yes, you can get a hairdryer too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Remember though, if it's a hairdryer, often will push the paint around, so
Right.
it depends. But if you want to dry it faster.
Yeah.
If you're outside in the sun, it's going to dry faster. If it's a humid day, it's not. So I'm waiting. This is still looks quite wet, but here it's lost that sheen. It's still damp. And you can, when you play with this, go ahead and try it. I'll show you a couple of things and then you can play with them. So now if I scratch along here, I'm thinking part of it will scratch down in, but part of it, nope, it went all the way. Will push the paint away. So it leaves these white lines as opposed to when it was quite wet, it had these darker lines.
Which one do you want?
Depends on what you're looking for. If you're doing trees, a lot of trees or something in the forest, and you want some darker and some lighter, you can do that. It's kind of a quick way, and it looks more natural, I think, than using your resist.
It's easier too, it looks like.
It is easier. The trick is it's the timing. It's all in the timing. And learning about what you want. Now here's some salt. This is just table salt. I also have, this is not going to show well on here.
Is that just regular salt?
This is just table salt. Yeah. So with the salt effect, you want to put it down, and you're going to have to wait. It's very effective. I think I showed you a couple pictures. Remember that lighthouse I had that had some of the salt effect on it, and it ended up looking like snow in effect. I've recommended to Donna, she wants to do, and we'll do this later on, but she's more advanced. So she wants to do some Christmas trees with like Christmas balls on them, maybe, you know, to try that. And we'll try that later, maybe next week or the week after. And I've said, experiment with the salt. Put the salt down, and if it works right, it will push away enough of the paint that it will leave it almost white paper underneath. Then when it's totally dry, you can come in with a couple of dots of bright color and see how that works.
Do you scrape the salt off, or like?
You wait for it to totally dry, and then you can brush it off.
Oh.
I'm going to do it on a darker color so it shows more. And again, it's not something that's going to show up. Oh, wait. It's not going to show immediately, and it's something you need to kind of plan, and it's good to practice it a few times before you do it. Oh, you know what I forgot? Plastic wrap. Look at you, she's so wonderful.
Here,
Yay! Thank you, Krista. Yay! All right, I won't have to use all of it. These are time. Can I rip it? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Pretty valuable.
I wonder how this would work. Now I have, that's why I liked this handle. Now not all your brushes have these handles. So you can find something else to scratch with. You can use the card, you know, if you want. Scratch across like that. Anything that's just kind of firm enough to handle it. This, I am going to take, now this works well especially with your more opaque paints. So I'm using burnt umber, and that's got a good amount of minerals in it. I'm getting flakiness and I'm not sure why. And I've thrown down a good amount of paint. I want this, this will do great for rocks and all sorts of things. So I put this down, and sometimes you want to weight it, put a little weight on top, but you can see already how it's creating some textures. And it's very natural forms. This is wonderful for rocks. My mother, she did just watercolor, she focused on it. She would design and pull the plastic while the paint was still wet, so it looked like water lilies or rose or peony petals. So it's a fun little technique. Then once, you have to wait for it to dry. Once you do, you pull that off, and you'll have those lighter and darker areas. And then you can take a little line, kind of outline in certain areas, maybe not all the way around, but enough so it looks like a little shadow. That's great. You can see that starting to work. I didn't do anything with this, did I? Is that too far to do anything? Move to my brush. Yeah, it's gone.
When you said it looked flaky earlier, what did that mean? Were you talking about your paint itself?
The paint, my ultramarine blue, and I put some fresh out last week, it was getting, the particles were not dissolving. It came out okay there. I think that's what I meant. Oh, look at that. You know what happened there? There obviously had been some sort of tape or something on that got stuck and left an imprint. If you touch your paper and your hands are a little bit oily, that's going to resist the watercolor. So try to keep the middle of it very, very clear. I think there's some plastic wrap here. I can cut some up and pass some around. Go ahead and play with some of those techniques. I have my wrist. Look at the plastic wrap. Oh, you don't have salt, right?
Right. I have salt. I don't.
I have a little bit. I have my little vial. I think I have more too. Oh, and I want to, this one's going to take a little longer. So if you need to borrow that, that's right there. But, oh, here's the other thing I wanted to do. Resist. To do the resist, I'm sorry, can I have your attention just a little bit more? I take a brush, a little bit of Dawn is great because it breaks up grease. Come up here. I wet my brush in the soap. Now I've had this for ages. And the reason I do this is because I wanted to wash my hands. This will get stuck in your brush. This is a resist. And it's kind of like, as I said last week, thank you so much.
Just go up there.
It's kind of like rubber cement. You know, it's softer base. It comes with this little brush. I never use this little brush that's in it though. So you want to keep that separate from the others, and you can dip your brush in here. The soap is protecting it if I wash it out as soon as I can. And then you can paint that resist onto your paper. Now some of these come tinted and you can't see it right now. And if I wash it out in this water, I have to dump this water out. So I just brush that on. I need to let it dry. This will help retain your whites in the paper, because I can come over this now if I have a large piece and I could paint that on, let it dry, and then come over with a huge wash in the background, and it would leave where the resist was white. So I'll show that. What's going to happen is this is going to dry. I'm going to do a wash over it. I'm going to let the wash totally dry, and then I can pull up the resist, and the white will show through. But that's a time consuming. Oh, here's another one. Sorry. One more. I still have more. I'll get out some paint. You can see now why a larger mixing area is nice, right? Again, I encourage not to make too huge an investment until you know that you really want to pursue it. But then you can make some investment without spending a huge amount of money. Notice how I mix that color. Now I'm going to use this one over here. It's like, oh. I can just run this, the edge of it, into my paint, and then I can drag it along. Or for fence post, I can just touch. So then I get just with the edge of that. Can you hold it up again? Sorry, can most of you see?
Yeah.
Just touch it. And you can change the color a little bit, because you don't, fence posts in nature, not, the paper's bent right now, so it's not working. Anyway, so it's a nice way to get a nice, sharp, clear line. All right, I'm gonna rinse this out. I'll get you all some other plastic bag. See, I've marked this brush. That's why I have the blue tape on here, because I know this is my resist brush. So it's for other not good things. This one is an older brush, which for some reason I messed it up, but I must have used it for acrylic or something. But I don't feel anything in there. But still, I don't think it doesn't go to a nice sharp point there. Playing around pretty well. It's almost dry. My resist is almost dry. So with my resist, and if you do buy some, get the smallest bottle, because this stuff will, I used to buy the 2-ounce size bottles, and it would dry out way before I had a chance to use it all. And it just ends up being this clumpy.
What's it called?
Oh, there's different brands. This is the masking fluid by Cheap Joe's. I think that's about $4 or $5 for that little bottle.
It's not called resist.
On this, it's called masking fluid. I call it watercolor resist because every brand has a different name for it, basically. So that's dry enough that I'm going to put a wash on that. Then I want to show double loading the brush.
Marilyn, did you say, what are the bigger salt pieces? Is that kosher salt?
Kosher is the big ones.
Yeah.
Sea salt.
Bigger, all right, sea salt.
Sea-
Bigger salt to make. Okay.
What you're looking for? I would try sea salt first.
Well,
Sea salt. Yeah. Yeah, the table salt is very small. Let me see if I have sea salt. Let me do this and then I'll look for some sea salt.
Sure.
All right.
Here's some you can use.
Is that sea salt?
Yeah.
Oh no, this is like Malden salt. This is the flake salt, isn't it?
Oh, it is flake. Morton,
Yeah.
not Morton, something else.
Malden.
Yeah,
Malden.
Morton flake, yeah. It came out nice.
Donna might like to try it. If you handy just a little pinch for Donna. Donna right there. She has flakes.
It's what kind of flake? Flake salt.
All right. I'm going to do a double loaded brush now. So I'm going to get out a good amount of paint. I'll use yellow. I don't know why. Clean my brush off. And what would be another color to use? That yellow just does not want to get out of my brush. I'm going to go with cobalt blue on this. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Look how pretty that is. It's just wonderful. As you get going, don't be afraid to use paint either. All right, I have a clean brush. It's damp, nice sharp edge. I'm going to dip one side. I'm going to take a little more water in it, just because I have some experience. Just one side, one corner here.
The stores have it. It's
One corner of this is in one color, and the other corner
in a white box.
here is going to be in another color. So this corner's in one, and then the blue's in this one.
It might be more.
So it's a double loaded brush, yellow on this side, blue here, yellow, blue. And you can bring it across and it naturally blends your colors. You can twist it up on its edge and turn it around, and it's magic.
It's a silhouette.
Isn't that cool? But you could use that also, say if you're doing an ocean scene, and you got green on one side, and the ocean's kind of green, and then you want the sky blue up above, and they blend together. You could do it that way.
It's like those pens we used to buy as kids.
Right, yeah. Double colored ones. Twist back, twist back. It looks like ribbon candy. Remember ribbon candy?
It was all stuck together like in here.
Gets humid, and it's like,
I loved it. I
Yeah.
couldn't get enough.
The bling to it after.
my grandmother always had that at
Mine
Christmas
too.
time. Yep. And then she had these things. I don't remember what they were called, peach blossoms or something, and they looked like little peach pillows, and they had peanut butter inside.
Oh,
I haven't seen those for.
I remember them.
That's acrylic, right?
All right, let's see. No.
Oh, right, those are
But I'm not sure.
Oh, very cool.
So here, I've taken the plastic off from mine, plastic wrap. And you can see it has some very nice natural textures, almost rock-like even in between. See the nice textures from the...
Yeah.
And then I can add some shadows in there or a little extra color. Then I'm gonna lift
Whose are these?
the resist. Andy's.
Andy, very nice.
These are beautiful.
Are those like the shapely pens that you used for the shiny
Yeah.
color?
It's an archive pen.
The gold is the pen?
No, the gold is a watercolor set of metallic watercolor paints.
Right.
All right,
Oh, there's metallic watercolor?
isn't that cool?
I think I got it
So-
more my style.
When I'm lifting the resist or the masking fluid or whatever, there is this nifty little tool. You can see I've had it forever. If you don't have one of these, you can just make a little pile of this, let it dry, and it will stick to itself. To just gently rub along and lift up the plastic, the resist.
Oh, wow.
So beautiful.
It's lifting up some of my paint too because this is a cheaper paper.
What's that thing?
This just, it goes kind of with this to remove it. But as I said,
I dropped my brush.
it's like a silicone thing. But you can just make a clump of this and make it work too.
My strokes there.
So cool.
So I've lifted up the resist and it's left just very clean, sharp white lines. Now the trick with this is they, to me, they look like they've had that
Cool.
resist on them, you know. But if you want a line like that, and then if you want, you can come back in with another color and color those in. So you could do that. See, so that way it has left nice bright, you still have the white underneath, So you have a brighter green and you don't have to worry about it blending together. I think it just might get messy if everybody tries this now, but I wanted to show that to you.
Cool.
It's coming, right? Sometimes, yes. One of the trickiest things to do with the plastic is be patient. It's like, I want to see what it's going to do, and you pull it off. Now, what you can do at first is you can lift just the corner and see if it's ready to come off. If it's still moving, then leave it a bit longer. And yours looks, see how it's not
close,
moving?
yeah.
It looks like it's ready to go.
Oh.
But I tell you, rocks, that stuff's great, that plastic, you just put it on there.
Wow.
All right,
Look at that, so simple.
brush
Animate it all complicated.
marks. I've shown with, I'm gonna go through some. Bunch of paint in your brush. I am using my flat brush. You can set it down up on its tip. I mean, we know how to bring it across, but, oh, that's wet. No, it's not. You can set it and then just twist one corner of it to make like a fan effect. You know, hold one corner in its place and you can make a nice fan effect. And I'm recording this so you can see it after. If you want leaves or petals, take this brush, calligraphy brush, load it up with some paint and control it. You can make a nice thick line with this, or you can keep it up on the tip and make a thin line with it, right? So you have that versatility.
What number brush is that?
I don't know. It's all worn off.
Oh, I see.
It looks like about maybe an 8. So if you control this, staying way up on the tip tops, notice I'm trying to hold my hand up, and then press it down, and then lift and press and lift, press and lift. If you want a leaf, do that once. You touch the very tip, drag it a little, oops, except without coffee in you, but you know. You kind of drag it a little bit, press it down, and then lift it up. That's horrible. And practice that. These are brush strokes.
Will you do the fan one again with the big brush?
Yeah.
That one doesn't, no, it doesn't.
The fan one, I'm holding it in place. Like I'll not move that corner.
Okay.
That's okay.
And I'll move this corner. I'll just draw that in a little
Okay. Oh, all right.
circle.
Maybe I'll attempt it.
Instead of trying to, you know, draw that shape and then fill it in.
Yes, yes.
You're doing it with one stroke, one beautiful stroke that goes like, oh yeah, I'm more interesting. And then you can drop in some other color. You can make a little, say a bird. I just kind of touch, bring it around. Now I'm gonna do a little circle. I'm twisting the brush in a different direction. And then I have a little bird. I don't know what kind of bird it is, but there he is. So just with brush strokes and learning them, playing around.
There we go.
Tree, I have trees. Okay. Trees depend a lot on the type of tree you're drawing.
The easiest tree 101.
Easiest tree 101. I love trees. This is my favorite little tree. Get some paint. Whoa, look at all that paint. I'm using my calligraphy brush. See, I'm making it so it's not just green, it's an interesting green. And always vary the color. Once you start with a color, don't keep it that way. Add a little bit more in. That's why I don't always clear off my palette, because I can bring in and variegate the color slightly. So you're not having a tree that's all the same color. Okay, my favorite little tree. Notice how I'm bracing here. But a fir tree. It's my favorite. I'm up on the tip. I'm just kind of drawing in the air, and I kind of bring it down. And then I'm making like V's going up in the air because the top branches reach up toward the sun. As you go down the tree, the branches get heavier and larger. And I'm kind of thinking branch, and I'm thinking also the tips of them, and they're going out. Making it a little bluer because I'm getting down into the tree now, a little more shadow in there. These branches are coming at me. I mean, if you've got branches going out like this, but if they're coming at you, they're going to be kind of scooping that way. So that's, I'm thinking that as I draw this area right here. And the bottom branches get quite heavy. So they go down. And notice all the light that's shining through a tree. What a lot of people forget, and what they'll do is do this with a tree.
That's what I did.
Yeah, that was my first instinct. Yeah, and it's too clumpy for a tree. Look how much more alive this tree is. You know. So again, just kind of start tip up, very light touches here. I do this on the mugs that I used to make. I had tree mugs.
Do you incorporate like a bark, like the bark?
Well, in this, because for usually the trunk is hidden within, you can, if you want, come back and put a little trunk down in there or something. Is that what you were thinking? I'm not worried about the bark. I'm not worried about a lot of detail at this point. I'm painting, I'm not, I mean, unless you want. I'm going to hand out, I did print up some trees, different types of trees. So look at the shapes of them. And for instance, this umbrella tree, if you were going to do that, and I'm almost out of space here. See this tree, see how it's more branches? Now you have to think Fibonacci, guys. You know Fibonacci, okay? It's the mathematical thing that things get halved and halved and halved, or doubled out. So if you're doing a type of tree like this, the basic trunk is going to be thick, and it's going to come up, but then it's going to get thinner. I'm drawing this upside down. Kind of thick and then thinner, thick and then thinner, and make it irregular. I'm not doing that exact tree, sorry. And then you can come in with leaves, irregular. That's why if you hold your brush further away and not like a pencil, you're apt to get better, more natural looking shapes. It needs some darks, so you can pick up some darks, throw in some darks. When you throw in the darks, throw them down in around the trunk where the shadows are inside the tree.
I gave up. It's like I moved a tree.
And the mountains we'll tackle in a little bit, I think. Did I print enough mountains for everybody? It's like, oh,
Such a happy little tree.
I printed up so many.
Can I ask
Yes.
a question?
No questions for you. Okay.
I like that. That's just
So remembering that balance between a lot of water or no water, dry brush, wet in, wet, dry, what technique are you trying to do? Watercolor takes a lot of thinking and planning. It really does. So I'm looking at the sunflower, and they're not all even, but my basic stroke is the drag and press down. And I'm starting out and kind of coming toward the center. And I don't have enough paint. So get some more paint. Now, if it's getting awkward, you can take your paper and turn it. So that it's more natural for your hand to work. All right, and in the middle we've got, I'm gonna start with kind of some yellow.
It rolled on you.
Pick up some brown. Bleeds out, I'm not too concerned about that. Yep. It did kind of take over the yellow, look how that happened.
Well, it did here too, so.
That's true, right? Little blot for texture, not too much of a blot. I'm actually painting it kind of upside down now, so. Drag, press down to the trunk.
Do you ever use the brushes that have the angles?
I don't very much. I do have a couple.
And for
I have-
leaves, they seem to work good.
This one. This I use, come on, it's not, for windows. If I have a flat area and I want to add in windows, this one is great for just laying in some windows. But, I mean, you could, for certain things, you could use the angle, but
Yeah.
this is almost the same thing I can get with that other brush.
I've been using mine for leaves.
That works
Mm-hmm.
for certain leaves.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially like this size and style.
I've tried to just simplify what brushes I use, and especially beginning. So a little green in there. What else do we have? This is a negative painting situation. You would draw around and then paint around that. Let's see. I've got to turn the paper so I don't get my hand in it. So the calla lily. This is a heavy pencil. I would not use this heavy pencil normally. Now I have to think how that goes down in, so I want to be consistent. That goes down through there, and it comes down through there.
It's just practice.
It's just practice, that's right.
I'm going to take a little in the center here. Oops.
Me?
I'll try with you, I love it. I'm very proud of myself.
The more groceries I use, the worse they get.
One thing with watercolor, is as you put the color down, it is going to dry 1/3 lighter than what you have when it's wet. So you're going to lose some color. So if you want it really intense, you've got to make it even extra intense. So here, I'm going to do the negative painting around this petal. And I'm going to do it quickly because I don't want that outer edge to dry. If it dries, then it's going to leave a line in my background.
I know that one.
Everybody knows that one, yeah, it's like, uh-huh. This looks like a spider, not a tree.
Where? That looks like a tree. It doesn't look like a spider.
Over my tree. I can do
I know what I did, there's no air in it, there's no light in it.
There's no light.
It's a big, solid, massive green.
And
This, this
This is gonna bleed because it's still
Bigger
wet.
brush,
Really?
oh, that one, and.
Gives me an idea.
She did it with both of, she just did you know, little V's.
Like a more.
What else?
You know, as you go down, just
Yeah, that brush, that might work nicely for those.
Oh, really?
they're a little bit more.
I'm not gonna use white this time. I'm gonna use some colors.
You know.
I don't know, I haven't tried this.
That
Let's
was my
see.
first one. I was like, oh, that worked out right. I was like, okay, no, can't do it.
Oh, no, that's a good idea.
So then I flipped it, the brush, to come in this way.
Well, there's that flower.
This is not my favorite.
I think it's, you have to play around style, like even she has so many different styles of what she's doing, but I guess you gravitate and then eventually figure out what it is you really want to be doing, whether it's that's the passion, you know. So it's like you kind of,
It's hard.
to show
That's
us.
a good technique here, too. Holding it like
Yeah.
that is a good technique.
Really?
Sort of like chopsticks.
Because then
but-
you're lighter
Yeah.
with your brush, as opposed to if you're holding it like this, you get too much pressure.
I need to have it.
With this, you get, oh my god, you have like a
Oops.
tree whisperer.
Well, that'll be all my Christmas cards on the treasures. I don't even send them anymore, but. I was trying to do that with little cards.
There you go. Just put it on out.
Christmas card.
Saving money, for sure. I think we might be doing some of that with them.
What's that? Oh.
Christmas card.
What is it?
Oh, yeah.
There's no stem on that, but I'm gonna add a stem.
Go to the professional.
It's not that flower, but it says flower,
It sure does.
so.
Screams flower.
I like red better anyway.
Me too. All right,
I saw it one time. Oh, right here. It's on the board.
That red one's beautiful.
does that have no leaves?
Yeah.
What kind of leaves is that? There's no leaves right in it, are there? Oh well.
Flower doesn't, but there's
But I
there
really
and
like
there
this
and
guy.
there.
Yeah, this is background ones.
Yeah, that's my favorite
I'm just working
one.
on flower right now. I think.
your favorite.
Well, they're all of the fir trees. Of the
I
fir
like this
trees.
one right here.
Oh, that's just one of those.
A piston thing.
Yeah,
What was trying to do.
just something like that.
I mean, this one.
There are.
All right, how are we doing?
Creations, therefore.
I'm just too heavy-handed on my trees. It's nice.
Yeah.
You
I
would
wish
leave
I had
that
blotted that.
background like that?
I don't know. It's kind of, if you start picking at things, it can kind of mess things up. Whoops. I mean, at a distance, it just kind of looks like textured leaves and stuff in the background. Do I need to define that? I want the detail here. I also might want, and then it starts becoming an aspect of your personal expression. What do you want it to say?
Did you?
She's stamping.
How detailed do you want it?
Yeah, I did some nerd stuff.
Yeah, that must be.
That was effective.
Just that little shadow?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes just a little something.
Oh, great.
Break yourself to being leave holes.
Leaf holes, like I did with Ray Heiser stuff.
Yeah.
And then these just get all mucky.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
coming.
I'm just trusting
Remember
it's
that
all gonna be fine.
This was not quite light enough touch up here for that very tip top. Very light lifted touch. All right, tree. Like deciduous trees you're talking now instead of the fir trees, right?
Right.
Let's see. I mean, there's a number of different ways. One thing I might do, can you see okay? Is I would kind of start probably with the trunk. I guess we'll get to mountains next week. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Got a lot to do with flowers. I mean, trees and flowers. So I want to think of the trunk coming up, growing into the ground, coming up kind of thick as we're going. Roots, I need another root because this is not, you know how roots kind of come off and just grow into the tree. So a couple branches, I'm not going to do all of them. And you don't have to spell it all out. People looking at it, their minds will finish things. Doug Dawson is a great pastelist, and he painted this beautiful picture of a woman once with a white feather mask on, black hair. And I'd show it to my students. I'm like, you gotta see this painting. And have I mentioned this in this class? Have you? And I'm like, look at her eyes. And they're like, oh my gosh, her eyes are that deep, dark pool eyes, you know? And then I covered one of them up, and the other one behind the mask was nothing but shadow. There was no eye there at all. One eye was totally defined, and the other was just in the shadow. But our minds, the viewer's mind, will finish it. So you don't have to spell everything out. If you don't spell everything out, you're bringing your viewer into your painting. They're becoming involved and partially, you know, creating part of it themselves. So I did a painting of my granddaughter. She was sitting on the beach, bright all around her. She had a cap on. So the shadow fell across here, her nose, just the tip of her nose and the bottom part. And this was just dark purple. I didn't paint any eyes or anything. I just put the top part of her face in shadow, and it works. So, kind of have a trunk. I want to start in deciduous with my lighter color and work towards my shadows. What kind of tree do we have? It's autumn. May I have my spray bottle back? Thank you. Okay, so it's autumn. We'll get some nice yellow leaves. And I'm thinking it's gonna be kind of a maple tree, you know, so you kind of want that maple tree shape. And I'm just dotting and kind of blopping. Sometimes I'm using a heavier hand, and sometimes I'm using just almost individual leaves.
You see?
And I'm just, this is where coffee really works great. You know, and you're putting it in there. It's like, oh yeah, it's just kind of, I'm gonna have a couple down here. Now as we're going along, maybe in here they change color slightly. Kind of underneath. I'm gonna turn this out because I want those branches going that way. Again, if this is awkward, turn the paper, right? It's harder to do that on an easel, but you can. I don't clamp my paper to the easel so much. I put it on another board, and I put that other board on the easel so I can always move things around if I want. All right, so now I don't want to get too...
Easel for watercolor?
No, for pastel, sorry, or acrylic. So I want red, but I don't want it too red. So notice I have paint on my palette. I'm just grabbing, you know, it's going to tone it down a little bit. It's not pure red. I'm thinking branches. These branches are kind of coming at me, leaving holes. Got to leave those holes. Now down at the bottom, the leaves haven't really started to change yet. They're still kind of green. Not very green. Let's make them a little more green. Greenish brown because it's switching and changing. A couple little shadows up in here. Now I wait and I kind of see what the paint wants to do. What are you doing here, paint? Tree trunk is pretty dry. I'm going to bring the shadow because these leaves are casting shadows on that trunk, right? In a regular pattern. That line is a little disturbing. This looks like it was a part of a branch that kind of went off here and then just kind of died off. You know, it got broken. Nope, don't like that. All right, so it's reaching up through, and then somewhere up in here. See, I'm gonna go, nope, that's too brown, that's too green. I'm gonna pick up a little more. I don't know exactly what, if I wanna know what color this is, I have that scrap paper off to the side and I can check it. I want this trunk, some branches to come up through the middle of that tree, just peeking through the holes. This is bothering me, they're too much the same size, same size. So I want to make one a little longer, a little darker. A couple branches out this way. And again, you don't have to finish every little aspect of it. As I'm looking at it, is that yours or mine?
It's mine, but go ahead.
Sure. This is getting a little, see how it's pooling? So I'll take a crunchy paper towel where it's dry and just try to find the right spot to kind of blot it. Just to add a little variety. But I'm not blot all over. Blot it, kind of leave it. Gonna wait to see where that's gonna go. Again, that mix between dry, see, I could see that was that shape, so I'm like, ooh, I'll just put some grass in while I'm right there. Little shadow underneath that tree. Set it down onto the ground so it's not floating in space. Where'd she go? There you are. Does that help?
Yes, it does. When you're putting your little tiny lines in though, and your paint was wet, wouldn't the black?
It was
run?
still wet. I would wait until it were dry.
Okay.
It would be drier, yeah. But I would, for a quick demonstration,
Okay.
definitely,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
Wait for it to be dry. But you notice you don't have to have that dark brown trunk. It's kind of a gray, and I don't,
Right. I'll have to work with my grade.
try the, oh, look at the texture.
That's cool.
How did you get that grade?
It's just a grain and, you know, what
You
else?
picked up from everywhere.
I think what did I use there? This looked kind of middle toned here. It looks a little green, maybe a little black. So if it's a little green, I'm going to add a little red. The complement, wherever I did my color wheel, it's gone now. But yeah, let's see how that grade is. Still kind of greenish. So by having this, I can just grab a little hint. Instead of going in here and getting bright, I just have a little bit of it I can mix in there. Grab a little blue. Oh, that looks better.
Ooh, pretty.
That's a nice little gray.
So was the blue that really made it go gray instead of taupe.
So,
I can't believe you just whipped that up.
the middle,
Isn't that
the,
beautiful?
whatever it is.
The calla lily?
Yeah,
Yeah.
how did you do that? You left it, did you scratch those?
Nope. Because it's a white flower, and this is a very dark pencil, I would use a much lighter pencil normally. Just very lightly kind of draw in where that flower is going to go. And knowing that, now I am going to, what did I do? Doesn't really matter what I did. Every time it's a little
Right.
bit different.
Right.
I want it fairly wet, but I want that flower dry because I want a nice sharp, it's not enough pigment. So I'm gonna follow along that pencil edge with my brush. I think the other one's gonna have come out better. Now, what's happening around, see how I'm following that edge? That's the important part. If I leave this too long, that's gonna dry into, you can almost start to see that line there. And you don't want that, right? So, oops, I just messed up. So you can quickly, once you get that sharp line, go ahead around it. And
How did you do these guys?
that's the plastic.
Oh, okay, they look like leaves.
Yeah,
Huh.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Oh, cool.
I put some of this on
Oh,
to kind of have background leaves.
I get it.
Let
Oh,
it
nice.
dry, and then I came back with some light blue, that little stamen, you know, the stem, a little outline on there, just details after that's all dry.
Cool, okay. That's neat, yeah.
And I think
So
I-
the
I did.
plastic,
How
That's
that-
how you
That's the
got it?
plastic, and that's the flower
But
right there.
that's-
See the flower?
yeah, yeah.
That's really
And then
cool.
that's the plastic's just gonna make all that.
Is this how you got the background?
Yes. So I just left it there for a little bit.
I like how the brown actually, at first it seemed like you thought this, you know, went in too much, but it actually was kind of cool.
It added almost like shadows coming into that.
Yeah.
And now that it's totally dry, I could come in, I mean, sunflowers aren't orange in the middle, really. They're kind of a rusty.
Mm-hmm. And did you add this little extra darker green on there?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So now I could add in a
yeah.
little, if I wanted to do something like that.
Yeah.
And I know it's supposed to be round, but do I have to make it perfectly?
No.
Somebody looks at that, they go like, oh, it's a flower.
Yeah, I like it like
It's
that.
not really sunflowers,
Some,
because
Oh,
sunflowers
yeah.
have more layers of
Right.
petals, but I
Yeah.
could, that could be my first layer, and then I could come in after with, you know, more layers. But see how I'm bracing my arm to make it steady? And I just went into that wet red.
That's what happens to me all the time.
Patience is a virtue, right?
Yeah. If I were doing this series, I would have waited longer and stuff. So you,
I see.
so with watercolor, you want to start with your lightest and work toward your dark. Like here, you want to pull that up. We do some mountains next week. Bye, Donna.
Oh,
She had a funeral to go to.
Oh, dear.
Trying to do mountains distance aerial perspective, so it's hazier in the background, and then try to bring in some fog.
yeah, that's great.
It is, if it works.
That's cool, yeah.
It is so much fun if it works.
If it works. Very nice.
So let's see this, as I lift that at the edge, I can see it's not quite dry. See how it's still moving the
still
paint?
moving. Gotta be patient, that's the trouble.
It is. There's a whole
It's
patience.
hard to be patient.
Sometimes. Very much.
You know, I have
Keep practicing and trying things out. Use scrap pieces of watercolor paper. Put some of the strokes together to get new images. One student took many types of paper with the same image to see how they each reacted, and she learned her favorite type of paper. Combine different colors. Try different strokes. Leave the light behind the trees. It works great. Add darkness into the shadow areas of the trees. It gives it depth and makes it more alive. Leave white for birch bark. Add those beautiful leaves on top for this umbrella tree. Try different colors in your trees. Who knows? Some of these are really exciting. This brown one was the student's favorite. Why not try different colors? It's exciting. Look at the beautiful strokes in this. This just happened and it came out gorgeous. Another student tried different types of salt, sea salt, this salt flakes. Who knows? Experiment, have fun. Keep painting, paint over and over, try new things, ink over watercolor. Who knows what images you'll get. Please subscribe and like below so you can receive updates to my new videos.